All right, so this is kind of our agenda. I've split it down into 5 parts. The first part really taking up the bulk of the conversation because DC is a confusing place filled with a lot of opportunities. And so we're going to go over even what's out there. Because when I was an intern, every single summer I was there, I found out something new that I could do. So why DC, right? You can do politics, you can do journalism, you can do PR events, any of that kind of stuff. You can do that anywhere. When I was a senior or going into my senior year, I interned for my state senator or my state's senior senator, Senator John Bozeman, who's the chairman of the House Agricultural Committee. I interned for him, and we had a former staffer under President Obama come and speak to us. And she said that all she wanted when she came to DC was to go back home from Arkansas. And I felt the same way, even after being in DC for 3 summers. Just, I want to go back to my home state of Arkansas. And she told me something that changed my life and perspective, which is go to DC and learn something. Only then can you come home and make a difference. Mercer is a very community driven people. Mercerians are community driven. And so if you're sitting here wondering why DC, that's a big city filled with a lot of people, come here, learn something. That's what interning is all about. That's what working here is all about, so that you can go back to your community and make a difference. So part 1, what are your initial decisions? So initial decisions, part 1, what's even out there? Tens of thousands of students intern in DC every year, each with vastly different opportunities. Politics and political activism are everywhere, which means there are jobs in DC you didn't even know exist. Put a couple funny ones here. If you want to work for the National Candy Association, they have interns. Toilet Paper and Tissue Association, you can intern for them too. You can intern for anyone from the President of the United States, the most powerful man in the world, to the National Beer Association. So it really just is a wide breadth, and you just got to know what's out there. So I've made these into 3 kind of different parts, which is constituents meet the government. So of course, DC and really everything nowadays is government, government, government. So your first decision, do you want to do, state or local government? That's an option. If you want to work for your congressman, even, you can do so in a what we call district offices. So your congressman has his office in DC, your congresswoman has her office in DC. They also have district offices here. So you can do state and local government. That means going to your state legislature, going to the mayor's office, but you can also stay in the local area and work for the federal government in the local area if that's something of interest to you. You can go work for the US House of Representatives, the way that I do now as a full-time staff member, the US Senate, committees. This was something, I'll admit, I didn't know existed until I came to DC for the first time. Each of your congressmen and senators work on committees that have full-time staff members. They're completely different staff. I currently work on the US House of Representatives committee for House Natural Resources. So I'm very familiar with committee work now, and that's more niche policy stuff. So if you're really interested in agricultural policy and you want to work for the government, the House Committee on Agriculture might be the thing for you. You can work for the White House. You could work for federal agencies. So that's anywhere from, the State Department to the Department of Interior. You can work on congressional commissions, which are special projects that the government has. Or you can work on independent agencies. That's stuff like the Smithsonian. If you're a history student on here and you want to do public history, especially, the Smithsonian is working for the federal government and interning for the federal government because tax dollars do go through that institution. So government is everywhere. It's always the option. And I would recommend, if you are looking to intern anywhere and be in politics, you got to work for the government at some point. Might as well get it out of the way. The next kind of thing is campaigns, parties, and issue advocacy. So you can go work for individual campaigns. I interned for Senator Katie Britt. She's the first female senator from Alabama. That was a really fun campaign. That's something that you can do not just in the summers. A lot of those campaigns are really ramping up during summertime before an election season, but then you can really hit the ground running and get a lot of good work under your belt when you are in that fall semester. Next year, we've got midterms coming up. So if you're interested in that, get involved early with people that races that you're watching. You can work for the political party itself, the RNC or the DNC, or some third party if you find yourself so inclined. And then this is where I want to make a little bit of a distinction. So issue advocacy is everywhere in DC, but there are a little bit different kind of organizations that you can work for in this space. So you have a 527 or a political action committee. You have a 501c4 or a 501c3. There are lots of others, but these are your big three. So I'm going to use my experiences as kind of an example. For that 527 or a PAC, I very much did Republican women stuff. That was kind of my thing, was working to get more Republican women elected. So I worked or interned for a PAC called Right Now Women PAC. So their primary goal is to funnel money to Republican female candidates and to raise money for them through events, through donors. And so their main goal for a 527 is political action. That's very important. A 501c4 is somewhat similar, but a little bit different. They are primarily what's called a social welfare organization. So I worked for a organization called Republican Women for Progress. So we still have that name Republican in it. We are allowed to publicly affiliate with the Republican or the Democratic Party, but its main goal was to train women to go into office. They dealt with money a little bit, but it was mostly that social welfare aspect of it. And a 501c3, that is your kind of standard nonprofit. I worked for an organization called Women's Public Leadership Network. We worked to elect conservative women. So we are not allowed to publicly affiliate with Republican or Democrat. Those are a little bit, C3s are a little bit harder to find, kind of their ideological lean, but it is an ideological thing. It is not a party-based thing. And that distinction becomes very important when you're working in murky waters like DC often has. So those are kind of the different nonprofits or issue advocacy that you can do there. All three of those, I was working towards the same goal, but we use different language and we use different tactics. So keep that in mind when you're looking at organizations. You're like, what's the difference between a C3 and a C4? That's kind of the difference. The next thing is think tanks. Think tanks are really important, even if you don't want to intern for them. I've never interned for a think tank. This is where you're really going to be doing that policy work. You're going to be having those ideological discussions and debates. So if that's something, if we have any political philosophy students on here, this is something that could be really helpful for you and something that you could learn a lot from. Even if you're not interested in think tanks or interested in interning for a think tank, it's always really important to keep in touch with those. Know what your ideological debates on your own side internally are. You can work for a policy shop or you can work for a corporation. Walmart is always hiring interns in their government affairs shop. The breadth is really, really vast here. And then number 3, consultants, and more consultants. You will learn DC is all about consultants. I previously worked for America 250. Our 250th anniversary of the country is next year. And I came in thinking everything was going to be done in-house. No, everything was contracted out. So as a staff member, that made my job a little bit different, right? So you can contract out public relations firms if there's any marketing people here. DC is obviously very politically based, but there are things to do in the city and things to learn in the city that aren't just politics. PR, crisis communications, really, really helpful if you want to be in marketing one day. Lobbying firms, again, more consultants, but you learn a lot about policy in a lobbying firm. Campaign firms, I did this one summer. So instead of working for just Katie Britt, you have 10 clients that you're working on in a campaign firm. And that's where you really learn a lot, or in these kinds of firms that you are getting this kind of different experience with every single client. You can do opposition research firms. There are people out there who make their living on finding the dirt on everybody else. If you're interested, you can intern there. Could be a valuable experience for you. Fundraising firms, name kind of explains. Data and analytics. Yes, even in politics, we use a lot of math. So if we've got any stats people on here, you can go and do data and analytics for political campaigns, especially, but also messaging on this particular bill. What does the data say? What does the data say about this particular policy? You've got event activation firms, and then you have public affairs and external affairs firms. So kind of the same thing. Walmart needs a public affairs person to talk to the community about what their initiatives are. You could go and intern from them. So all of that to say, there are lots of options, and you will learn as you intern up here more and more things that exist that you didn't know, that you're like, what? There's another consultant out there that does something else? Yes, there is. The answer is always yes. So here are really your initial decisions that you need to make knowing all that information. First decision you need to make, state versus federal versus local. A few things can factor into this decision. Number one, what does your long-term career goal look like? So if you really want to stay in Macon, Georgia, and you know, I want to be mayor of Macon one day, federal experience could be really helpful for you. Again, go learn something and come back to your community. But it might be better to stay and work for the mayor's office, especially if this is the end of your freshman year and you're looking for your first internship. Number two, what can your wallet take? I know money is a sore subject. Please don't let the high expense of what DC can become turn you away from going. People make it work, but it is expensive. So what can your wallet take? Especially, again, if you're a freshman. I went to DC 3 summers. That's really rare. Most people don't do that. Most people go 1, maybe 2. So if your wallet can take you going all 3 summers, might be if you're a freshman or sophomore, might be that you want to go now. But if that's not possible, maybe you want to save that until you have a little bit more professional experience under your belt. Number 3, what professional connections do you already have? Who do you know that can get you to DC? You don't have to know anyone in DC particularly, but if you're already invested in Mercer College Democrats, Mercer College Republicans, Network of Enlightened Women, within 2 people, you'll be in DC. Within 1 person, you'll be in DC. So what kind of professional connections do you already have to make that jump far away from home easier? Number 4, do you have any other commitments this summer? DC, again, is expensive. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of energy. And when you go to DC, you really need to give it everything you have. And so if you have any other commitments for the summer, you might not want to come up here and spend the time, energy, resources to do this. One summer, I had my sister's wedding. So I didn't get to go for the whole 2 months of summer. I only went for 1. And that was a choice that I had to make because I just knew that it wasn't going to be worth it for me to try to come back and forth and fulfill all my obligations. So that's your first kind of decision. Your second decision, are you decided or are you exploring? Do you know what you want to do long term? If you do, that's great. Start with that and get involved early. If you know you're really interested in energy policy, this is what is your passion, be the energy policy person so that by the time you graduate, you have all this professional experience and you can go straight into working for energy policy. If you don't know what you want to do, don't worry. Nobody knows what they want to do when they're 20. So you should try everything. Paths in DC are not linear. Very rarely are they. There are pros and cons to each decision. As I mentioned before, I was very invested deeply in the Republican women's space by the time that I graduated. But then I'd also tried a lot of different things. I'd worked for a firm, I'd worked for a campaign, I'd worked for the government, I worked for 3 different types of nonprofits. And so when I graduated, I did have this kind of solidified brand as this Republican women's space, but I also had to, or was able to shallowly dip into these other types of work so that I knew when I graduated, I want to go work for the government. And that's ultimately what I did. Your next decision, this is probably the most important one, partisan versus nonpartisan versus bipartisan. Your career starts now as an intern. It does not start later. This decision can make a significant impact on your career opportunities later on. For better or worse, we are living in a very, I know it's for worse, we're living in a very, very partisan world. And DC is about alignment, and you need to know yourself, you need to know your ideology, you need to know your interests, and you need to know your values. So to better understand your ideology, you need to be plugged into those think tanks and those ideologues, the people that are just thinking about these political questions. And you need to know kind of where you stand on them. You don't have to know everything, and your mind is going to change. It should. But if you're wanting to work in progressive politics, working for the Heritage Foundation, which is a very distinct think tank on the right, might not be the place that you want to be. Even within your own side, for lack of a better term, if you are a center right Republican, the kind of the same thing goes for Heritage. That might not be the place for you. It might be. You just need to figure out where you lie, because what's on your resume when you're an intern, what's on your resume when you're a first-time staff member, that follows you throughout your career. And DC has a long memory, and so you just need to be careful about the decisions that you make, not just for that fact, but also so that you're staying true to yourself and you're not putting yourself in a situation where you have all this passion and drive and you're really, really wanting to make a difference, but you're in an environment that doesn't align with you or your values. So you want to be sure that you're really making this decision before you start. You can change your mind, but before you start, and try to stick with that, with especially the values component of it. And then the fourth decision you're going to make, programs versus independent internships. Not all internships are created equal. Some internships are part of larger programs that offer perks like housing. Others are independent and give you what I will call a full DC experience. Each comes with its advantages and drawbacks. If you're new to the political world, it might be best to start with programs. That is what I did. I did the Fund for American Studies. We can go through this a little bit deeper. So programs, most similar to college. You have a built-in community, you have neighbors, you have academic class or component, are given housing, which also means less direct internship hunting and in non-direct applications. So you apply to the program and then they find you an internship. That's most of the way that it works. However, it can be very expensive to do these programs because you are paying for a class, you are paying for housing in DC, and you're paying for them to find you something. And it also means there's more oversight on you and less responsibility. So you've got an RA, you've got people kind of watching you. That's great, especially if you're a freshman looking to come to DC. Programs might be the move for you versus an independent internship. So this is most like a full-time career. There's no class requirement, but you can kind of sometimes get credit for it if Mercer allows. No housing typically, so you have to find that by yourself. It's independent internship applications, so you have a lot more control over your internship. It also means more responsibility because you don't have somebody watching out for you. You got to get up and go to work. But there is no upfront cost to these independent internships. You're not paying somebody to intern for them. In fact, a lot of times when you're doing an independent internship, you can get paid. Paid internships are becoming more and more popular in DC. You're not getting paid a lot of money. But if you're doing these programs, you're paying them a lot of the time. Interns or independents, they're paying you a lot of the time. So just keep that in mind. We've got some program examples up here. I won't really go through all of them, but I've kind of told you if they're on the center right, the left, bipartisan. I did the Fund for American Studies. I would certainly recommend. It is what they call free market leaning, but all of my friends that I met from there, half of them are Republicans and half of them are Democrats, and we never had any sort of ideological problems with the actual program itself. And then we've got independent internship examples. So that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. Anything else applies. But no matter which one you choose, What they have in common, a great learning experience in DC. And that's what internships are all about. So, how to find internships? You've made all these decisions. Great. Now, what do you do? Can seem overwhelming. DC is a small town in disguise, and it's always hiring. Okay, so first thing you need to do your research. Do what your research on what's out there. Remember your alignment. Okay, you should use Google. ChatGPT can be very helpful in this. Don't use it for Mercer assignments, but it can be really helpful for finding internships. Found lots of them that way. You should use social media, especially LinkedIn and X. So you can see networks of people in DC. DC feels like a big town. There are a lot of people involved in the political space. There are a lot of consultants, as we talked about. But when you're making those decisions, like, okay, I'm only going to do federal policy. Okay, well, now I only want to do Republican federal policy. And then you go, okay, well, I only want to do Republican energy policy. Your network, your community of people that are doing that got exponentially smaller. And so you can find these people, you can find these networks, you can find who are the big dogs kind of in this space through LinkedIn and Twitter. That's my pro tip. Find networks of people in organizations. Look at followers. Look at mentions. Look at who's writing the op-eds and who's publishing them. If there's a particular organization, news organization that's publishing op-eds that you really like, that align with what you want to do or your policy area or your beliefs, follow them, read their op-eds. Look at event sponsors. You will find there are sponsors that all they do is bipartisan work. That's great. Some of them only sponsor on the right, and you will see them show up over and over and over again. So that can be an indicator to you of, oh, this organization and this organization they have the same sponsors. That means they're probably a little bit aligned. You should look at commentary to find these partner organizations. You should also look at job and internship banks. If you're a Conservative Partnership Institute, they have an internship bank. American Enterprise Institute, they have an internship bank. If you're on the left, the Minority Whip, Catherine Clark, she holds a internship bank. So those are really great places. But remember, with these internship banks, you are all fighting for the same internship. So be aware that the same internship bank you're using, everybody else is too. And then use Handshake. Mercer provides it for you. I have hired interns via Handshake. I never used it as a student. You should not be like me and you should do it because it can be really helpful. Number 2, now you've done all this research. Do all the work on the front end. 2, you need to organize it. I'm a spreadsheet gal. You should create a spreadsheet of potential internship opportunities. You need to include links to the websites and the applications, hiring manager's name and contact if it's there, and deadlines. And then you need to label each organization with a targeting level. Okay, so you're all very busy. You all have a lot going on. I mean, it's the week of Thanksgiving. You don't have time to apply to 100 internships, even if 100 internships sound fascinating to you. So you need to label them with, this is my ideal, this is my last ideal, this is my backup. That way, when you're in crunch time and you really got to make these decisions, you got to make these applications happen, you don't have to think about that. And you already know this is the one I need to prioritize. Pro tip, if you have an existing network in DC, ask around for internship recommendations and connections within your target organizations. Ask where your fellow students have interned. Again, these networks become very visible when you're in the space long enough. So ask people, especially if you're trying to be, I want to be someone that's known in progressive politics. There are certain internships, there are certain jobs, organizations that give you that kind of checkbox of, this person is certainly on the left, they have our training. Ask around for what those are. And then you need to stay in the game. Even with internships, politics changes all the time. So keep refreshing your research, look for new opportunities, and make the ask. Even if an organization isn't hiring, there are so many cold emails that I sent that worked. Okay. So if you really want to work for America 250 and you don't see anything on their website, cold email, see if anybody will answer you. You never know what can happen. And even if you don't get a job or an internship out of it, you're making that connection, which can be really helpful. Remember, in DC, you are never done learning the landscape and you're always laying the groundwork for the next job. Pro tip, DC is the world of internal hires. So don't be afraid to cold email if you have a dream internship, because people love good, passionate, hard workers. And if you put in the initiative, it's not embarrassing. It's the thing that's going to get you the job. So now part number 3. You've done all this research, you've organized it all, you're ready. How do you apply? So this can be very time consuming, so be sure to give yourself the time. You need to take the time to do it right the first time. Your resume should be updated. Just update it all the time, because when you go to apply for a job, you don't want to spend the time updating your resume. Update it when you get your next job. You should have your references on standby, and your cover letter should be personal and it should be genuine. I cannot say how many cover letters I have read as someone that is hiring that it is very clear that this is a standard cover letter that just has the organization's name and the date changed out. It can be fairly the same. You can have a generic cover letter, but be sure to actually put in the time of explaining why you want to work at this place, because you can tell when that's copy and pasted. So most applications require resume, cover letter, references. Some can require even more. Some can require essays. Most applications are due anytime from October to March. So keep that in mind when juggling your responsibilities, that if you really want to work for the White House and they require an essay, I don't know that they do, I'm just spitballing, you need to be working on that essay and you need to prioritize that. Most internships also require interviews. Dress professionally, arrive at the Zoom early. I say at least 10 minutes, because if you were doing that in person, you would show up 10 minutes early. So show up early to that Zoom. Don't show up the minute of, and don't be late. Know your organization and its values and have your story ready. Okay. DC loves a narrative. Be sure to have yours. We can see the effort during applications and interviews. So by narrative, I mean, I'm Kendall Webb. I'm from Arkansas. This is what I'm really passionate about. This is why I want to work here. You need to be ready and prepared with that. Because if you can't answer that simple question, they're not going to hire you. So my pro tips for this: keep your resume updated and relevant to the internship description. It's okay if not everything you've accomplished is on your resume. There will come a time when you have to take off that thing you were really proud of from high school. You have to take that off your resume. I did it recently. It's horrible, but you have to do it. Keep it tailored. They want to see what is applicable. And also, as college students at Mercer, you have a lot of opportunity to be involved on campus. That's really impressive to a lot of internship descriptions. If you have no political experience, I promise you, you have skills that can be applied. If you were your sorority's fundraising chair and you want to go to DC, but you don't have any political experience, put on that you were your school's fundraising chair. Tell me how many dollars you held. You know what that shows me? You're responsible. You know how to work with money. You know how to work with a budget. I'd hire you in a fundraising firm. Those are the kinds of things that you need to think about when you're looking at, okay, what opportunities am I looking at and what experiences do I have and how can I tailor these? Next pro tip, create a portfolio, especially if you're in PR, if you're in policy or communications. And PS, everything in DC is communications, so you should all probably have a portfolio, at least a writing sample. And if you're really wanting to do like communications for a senator, you might not want to give him your 10-page essay on Frankenstein. Might not be super applicable, but did you write something for the cluster? That might be better. If you're trying to do policy stuff, that 10-page paper that's filled with research might be a better writing sample. So just keep those in mind. Pro tip, it's important to have diverse references on standby. You should have an academic reference, character reference, and a work reference, and you need to keep them in the loop. So before you give any sort of references, you need to, number one, ask them and make sure that they're okay with giving you a reference. If you just put somebody's name down, it is not only unprofessional, it can be very rude, and you can hurt your relationship with that person. So you need to ask before. The second one, I have a professor at Mercer who told me I will be your reference anytime you need it for the rest of your career. Let me know. And I have used him as a reference. But every time I use him as a reference, I shoot him a note and I say, hey, I applied for this thing. This is why I really want this job. Are you able to write a reference for me? Really simple, really short. But if that phone call just comes through or that email asking for his reference just comes through, he's not going to know why I want to work there or what's going on. So just keep them in the loop. Last pro tip, when researching for interviews, do not stop at the first result or most well-known policy and action. I have done this in interviews with people before, not with interns, but for full-time staff members, where somebody gave me, I said, what of the congressman's policy do you really care about? And he gave me the top headline that had been in the news the day before. And I said, okay, what else? And he didn't have anything. So go deeper into those op-eds, go deeper into those policies and their statements. We can see the effort. DC is all about the effort when you're an intern. What's the best thing? I have never gotten a bad reaction to me doing this when I say, I really liked the congressman's most recent policy because of X, but I really, really love his policy from 3 months ago that did Y. That shows that you did your research and you know why you want to work here. If you are running late on your timelines, don't lose hope. I got an internship in May, a week before I moved. Internships close and open often. Earlier you submit, the better, but this is where tracking will come in handy. Every application is laying the groundwork for other opportunities. My senior year, I got a fellowship from a place that I had applied for an internship when I was a freshman. I didn't get that internship when I was a freshman. I was persistent and I kept in touch with the organization because I knew it was somewhere I wanted to go and somewhere I wanted to work. And I ended up doing it when I was a senior. And they remembered that persistence. So don't ever just throw in the towel. Don't put something on your name with your name on it into this world that you don't want following you. Just put in the effort. Internships are an investment into you. You are not going to know everything. You are not going to be perfect. You need to prove through your application that you are worth the investment. And you do that, again, word of the day, through the effort. So part 4, congratulations, you've been hired. Yay. Now what do? DC is a far way from Macon, Georgia. This is the logistical part, okay? Housing. If you are doing an independent internship without housing, this is your biggest challenge. Thousands of students do it every year. You can do it, I promise. I've done it 3 times. Resources, we're going to go through on the next slide. But buyer beware. If you choose to find a house online, be sure to triple check its legitimacy. I had a friend, we showed up, I picked them up from the airport, we showed up to this apartment, and there was nothing in it. And it was in a very sketchy neighborhood. And I said, we're not doing that. I got on Facebook, found him another apartment within 10 minutes. So be sure to triple check if things are legitimate before you get your suitcases and you're in the nation's capital and you don't have a place to stay. You should also check on, especially really for everybody, but ladies in the room, you need to check on the safety ratings of the neighborhoods. Okay, this is a city. You are all very young. Even if you think that you are old, you are not. You are all very young. And this is a city, and so you just need to check on the safety ratings. You need to give your parents some peace of mind and be sure that you are living and working in a place that you can feel safe going to and coming from. Give us all a little peace of mind. Thank you. The next thing, monetary expenses. Again, money is a sore subject. It is very expensive to live in DC. It is one of the most expensive places to live in the United States. You need to be smart with your money. You need to be sure you have a workable budget. Go to many lectures and receptions as you can to get the free food. People love to feed the feral interns in DC, okay? They all know that you are broke college students just trying to start your careers. So they will feed you. But just be sure that this is something that you've thought about. A lot of programs, a lot of internships, they have scholarships. There are scholarships available to help you. Do not let money keep you from chasing this dream and getting this experience, okay? Talk to CCPD, talk to people in your life and mentors in your life. We'll figure it out. Everybody can do it. Travel. So DC has 3 airports: DCA, BWI, IAD. The distance from the city, that's how they're listed. So DCA is closest to the city. Once you are here, you should have a Metro card and an Uber One or a Lyft account. You will be using it enough to justify the $10 a month that you're going to spend for 2 months. That is my opinion. So there are also scooters in DC that can be helpful for short distances. That would be something like Lime or Bird if you've ever used any of those. Public transportation is abundant. Keep the location and proximity to metros in mind when looking at housing options. So on top of looking at neighborhoods and safety ratings, you need to look at how far things are from each other. If you are working on Capitol Hill for the government, you do not want to be living in Arlington, Virginia. You are looking at an hour-and-a-half commute on a good day. I did that. I lived downtown and worked in Arlington, spent an hour-and-a-half, 3 hours every day commuting. So just keep those in mind. It's possible, but keep it in mind. And then class credit. If your program includes an academic component, you need to talk to your academic advisor or head of department to get applicable Mercer credit. If you don't have an explicit academic component, it's fine. Sometimes you can still get that credit. Lots of degree programs require practicums, and there are several Mercer certificates that require internships, including a certificate in political communications, which I got. I'm pretty sure I'm the only person that has gotten it in my class. If you're all wanting to work in politics, you should go get that. It's really, really easy to get. It's like 2 classes and then 2 internships. Talk to Dr. Grant about it. So these are housing resources. This is going to be sent to you, but there are universities that offer housing. George Mason, that's a last resort because it's far outside the city. Everything else is in DC proper. There are housing companies. These are a little bit expensive. Just a note on a couple of these. The E.W. Richardson Building housing, that is explicitly for conservative students. They will allow, they can't discriminate, obviously, but it is supposed to be making an environment for conservatives to live and talk about policy and ideology. So if you're someone that finds yourself on the progressive left, might not be the best for you. Maybe you want to, and you'll talk to people and have debate, but just keep that in mind. You can also do Airbnb. There is a law in DC that you cannot be in an Airbnb for more than 30 days because that means that you are a resident. So if you are there for 2 months, you have to get yourself 2 different Airbnbs, maybe 3 if it's like 31 days and 30 days. I did it. I would not recommend, but you can do it if you're in a pinch. There's also so many taxes on Airbnb in DC. It's like a 10% tax, so just keep that in mind. Furnished Finder, I've lived in apartments through here. You find furnished apartments. They can be a little pricey, but a good option. Beware of June homes. The scam apartment that I talked about earlier that my friend had ran into, that was June homes. Don't use them. So if you think that you found a great deal, no, you didn't. Independent searching, Facebook groups. Go on to Facebook and literally put in DC internship housing. You will find tons of Facebook groups. I found several apartments through those Facebook groups. But again, do not put your name on a contract. You should have a contract generally, but do not put your name on a contract or give someone money until you have seen that apartment through FaceTime. Do not take pictures as truth. Okay. Grace DC is a church with several locations in the city, and they have a housing place. You don't have to be a member of the church. It just, people go on and post their apartments. There's tons of universities here. Students have to sublease their apartments during the summer. So there's lots of housing. During DC, it's like a mass exodus out of here. You can look on Zillow. Beware of Craigslist. I don't need to explain to you why. You all should know. Craigslist probably don't want to be like getting an apartment from like some random guy on Craigslist for the summer. DC is fun. I know we've talked about a lot of like tough things. DC is so fun. You get to meet people, you get to meet fellow interns that are struggling and trying to figure out who they are and what they want to do, just like you. You get this breadth of experience and diversity of people. Everyone from all around the world, from all around the country, come to DC. And contrary to popular belief, a lot of them come here because they think they can make a difference and because they're really passionate about something. That's a fun place to be. Okay. DC also, museums, free. If you're a history person, this is the best city in the world for you. There are lots of movies, there are lots of free activities. There are, I mean, it's like any city and the perks of any city, fun nightlife, several professional sports teams. Interns love to go to the Nationals games. It's the baseball team. DC is super fun. So you should come. It's really great. Okay. Part number 5, this is the last part. Get in the room and stay in the room. Getting in the room is only half the battle. From the time you apply from your first to that job to the last day, you are a representative of yourself, your values, and most importantly for the people, for Stacy and the CCPD, you're a representative of Mercer. Okay, you always will be when you get a degree from here. So once inside the room, do all that you can to stay there. Again, contrary to popular belief, most people in DC want to help you thrive because they were you one time. And you just need to improve that you're worth the investment. Be curious, be helpful, always say yes to being helpful, be yourself. Do not have a pride or ego when you get here. As a full-time staff member on Capitol Hill working for a congressman, I made him coffee because he had more important things to do. You got to lower your ego. And remember, it only takes one yes to set you on a path towards success. So the 3 aspects of this: network, network, network. When you network with people, always come prepared with your questions. You need to ask one question every single time. Who can you connect me to next that does XYZ? You need to track the people that you're having coffees with. So in DC, coffee is shorthand for just going and having an informal conversation. Doesn't actually mean that you're going to get coffee. So when I refer in coffee, that's what I'm talking about. You need to track these people, because if you're going to have a 30-minute conversation with them and then never talk to them again, what use is that? So track who you were talking to, add them on LinkedIn, make a spreadsheet, keep them updated with who you are and what you're doing. That way, in 5 years, when they're doing something that is really cool, you can congratulate them, or something that you want to do or learn more about, you have that personal connection with them. So it's not just so transactional all the time. That kind of relationship building with people is so soul killing. So really keep that personal relationship open with people. They really appreciate it. You need to get involved with your think tanks. I keep saying it, but you gotta know who is who in the spaces that you're floating in, because people are touchy, and you need to know what debates are going on, and you need to be on top of those debates. That's how you can become really successful in DC. You need to expand outside your circle. If you're firmly, I want to be in Republican politics, that's great. Go meet with somebody that works in Democratic politics. Go and learn what they have to say. Go and learn what they have to teach you. And the same thing goes for the other side. Just because you work very firmly in partisan politics doesn't mean that you don't need to know people on the other side. It doesn't mean that they don't have anything to teach you. So, and also, last thing on this, network with your fellow interns, become friends with them. Your fellow interns are your future coworkers. My first job in DC, my fellow intern from my senior year, she was my coworker. My new job in DC, my intern that was a fellow intern with me, he's my coworker. These are people that you need to have real relationships with, because they'll come in handy. And again, it's a way to keep this place from being really soul crushing and soul sucking. Again, be prepared, know your ideological debates, know what the congressman is doing, know what's going on in the government, even if you're not working for the government. Best way to do that, you should read political news. You should read, there's an organization called Roll Call. You should read that. You should read Punchbowl News. Please, everyone read Punchbowl News. If you want to know about the government and the inner workings of it, you should read that. You should read Politico. And Punchbowl also has a 10-minute podcast that they do every day called The Daily Punch. If you're a student and you're at all interested in politics, listen to The Daily Punch every day. You will learn more. This guy's named Jake Sherman. You will learn more from Jake Sherman in those 10 minutes about the inner workings of what's going on. If you listen to that for a week, then you can in a lot of other ways. So I definitely recommend that. And number 3, do your best. Show up early, leave late if you're asked to, put 100% effort into everything, raise your hand on the first time, be committed to the thing that you're doing, even if it seems kind of silly or like a waste of your time. I promise it's not. And lower yourself. Go get the coffee when they ask you to do it. I did a kind of silly internship task for a senator one time. Next day, I got a press release because I proved that I was the first person to say, I'll do that. So it matters, right? Last kind of thing I'll leave y'all with, the best piece of advice I've ever gotten in DC is figure it out. I was in my first internship program in DC. I didn't want to do politics. When I came in as a freshman, I said, that place is too dirty. That place is it's too frustrating. I can never make a difference. Came to DC the first time and somebody looked at me and said, I hate the term fake it till you make it. Because when you say fake it till you make it, you're already undermining yourself and you're telling yourself you don't know what you're doing. Instead, your mantra should be figure it out. You are all very capable. You all go to Mercer University. You're getting a great education. This is somebody that's been in this city for a while. You can hold your own with the best of them. You really can. You are capable of figuring it out. If you don't know the answer to the question, go figure it out. You don't know how to do something, go figure it out because you can. You have that innate ability. So don't fake it till you make it, figure it out. Success in DC is all about proactive networking and persistence. The first job that I got in DC, I worked for my hometown congressman. I didn't get that job because I was from Arkansas and I was from his hometown. I got that job because I was a Mercer Bear. Through 3 different people to get to that congressman. Instead of the one person I could have called from my hometown. It took me 3 different people that I got connected to from Mercer. So it's that proactive networking. It's that persistence. If you want to be up here, make it happen. You can figure it out. So that's all I have for y'all. Thank you. This is my email. If you make your way up to DC, if you have any questions, if you need any advice, email me. I'll be your first coffee. And at the end of that coffee, if you do not ask me, who can you connect me to? I'm going to say, you learn nothing from my spiel to you. What's the question you're supposed to ask me? I love Mercer. I love our students. We are very capable, and I want to see us really succeed in this city and in this space. So please reach out to me.